First contact. Dr. Nevin Orloff's tentacles trembled slightly as he manipulated the holographic display, his 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession, a sign of extreme agitation among the Cephalari. The data streaming before him couldn't possibly be correct. He recalibrated the deep space sensors, ran the analysis again, and watched as the same disturbing pattern emerged. "Computer, verify these readings against historical records," he commanded, his voice a melodious ripple through the water-filled chamber of his research vessel. "Verification complete," the computer responded. 99.8% match to theoretical expansion patterns of apex predator species. Nevin's skin flushed a deep purple, the Cephalari equivalent of going pale. He had dedicated his 300-year career to studying the emergence patterns of intelligent species throughout the galaxy. Never had he encountered anything like this. The species calling themselves humans had gone from primitive technology to interplanetary expansion in less than 3 centuries, an evolutionary blink of an eye. "Computer, project current expansion rate over the next millennium," he requested. The holographic display shifted, showing a blue sphere, Earth, surrounded by an expanding red cloud that engulfed first its solar system, then neighboring stars, then entire sectors of the galaxy. "Impossible," Nevin whispered, but the data didn't lie. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Representatives from 200 species sat in concentric rings around the central platform where Dr. Orloff's hologram hovered, his tentacles gesturing at the projected data. "Distinguished representatives," Nevin concluded, "based on my analysis, the species known as humans represent an unprecedented phenomenon. Their technological advancement curve is exponential, not linear. Their resource consumption patterns match those of invasive species. Their capacity for violence, even against their own kind, exceeds that of any known sentient species." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of sounds, clicks, whistles, rumbles, and electronic signals, as council members communicated their alarm in their native tongues. Universal translators struggled to keep pace with the overlapping voices. Council Elder Thun, a gaseous entity contained within an ornate hovering vessel, pulsed bright yellow to silence the chamber. When quiet descended, Thun's translated voice resonated through the hull. "We have encountered aggressive species before. The Voridax. The Scaran. The hegemony of Uth. All were contained. What makes these humans different?" Dr. Orloff's hologram shifted nervously. 3 critical factors, Elder. First, their adaptability. Humans can survive in environments that would kill most species. Second, their technological innovation rate. They advance not linearly but exponentially. And third, most concerningly, their paradoxical nature. "Explain this paradox," demanded Thun. "Humans are simultaneously capable of profound empathy and horrific cruelty. They weep over the death of a single child yet design weapons capable of planetary destruction. They create art celebrating peace while perfecting the science of warfare. They recognize the value of cooperation yet remain divided by tribal instincts. This unpredictability makes them dangerous in ways we cannot fully anticipate." From the third ring of the chamber, a luminous figure rose. Ambassador Xylith of the Luminar, a species of energy beings renowned for their diplomatic prowess, glowed with a gentle blue radiance. "If I may address the council," Xylith began, her voice like chimes in a gentle breeze. "I have studied Dr. Orloff's full report, and while the data is concerning, I believe we must consider alternative interpretations. Perhaps this paradox he describes is not a flaw but a feature of an evolving consciousness, one that struggles between its biological imperatives and its higher aspirations." A harsh, grating sound cut through Xylith's melodious speech. Commander Vex of the Drakari military caste, his armored exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights, stepped forward. The reptilian warrior's clawed hand struck the railing before him. "The Luminar would have us extend trust until we find ourselves extinct," Vex snarled. "The data is clear. These humans are predators, and predators cannot change their nature. They are expanding at an unsustainable rate, consuming resources without regard for other life forms. My recommendation is immediate containment, before they develop the technology to threaten our worlds. Xylitha's glow intensified. And how many times, Commander, has your species recommended containment that resulted in genocide? The Luminar remember the fate of the Thade civilization. Vex's reptilian features contorted in anger. The Thade were a clear and present danger. The Thade were philosophers and artists who refused to share their dimensional technology, Xylith countered. And now they exist only in our archives. Elder Thun pulsed bright red, silencing both speakers. This council will not revisit past judgments. We must focus on the matter at hand. Dr. Orloff, what is your recommendation? The xenobiologist's hologram shifted uncomfortably. I believe we need more data, Elder. Humans are still confined primarily to their solar system, with only experimental outposts beyond. They remain unaware of the broader galactic community due to our containment protocols. I recommend a specialized observation team, experts who can integrate with human society and assess the true nature of the threat. From the shadows at the edge of the chamber, a voice spoke, low, raspy, and cold. The Watchers will serve. All eyes turned to the dark corner where the voice had originated. A tall, thin figure in a hooded robe stepped forward just enough for the light to catch the edge of a gray, featureless face. The council members shifted nervously. The Watchers were an ancient species specialized in covert observation, feared for their ability to blend into any society and their ruthless objectivity. Observer Krell, Elder Thun acknowledged. The Council appreciates the Watchers' offer, but this mission requires a diverse perspective. A team representing different specialties would be more appropriate. Krell inclined his head slightly. As you wish. But a Watcher should lead this mission. We alone have the experience to maintain objectivity when studying predators. The word hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Xylitha's glow dimmed slightly in response. I nominate Xylith of the Luminar to join this observation team, came a new voice. Counselor Drek of the Havali, a species known for their strategic thinking, stepped forward. His iridescent wings fluttered as he spoke. If humans are indeed as paradoxical as Dr. Orloff suggests, we need observers capable of recognizing compassion as well as cruelty. An excellent suggestion, Elder Thun agreed. Commander Vex, the Drakari's military expertise would also be valuable on this mission. Vex straightened his armored frame. The Drakari will observe and evaluate the human threat potential. Xylitha's light pulsed in what might have been a sigh. I will observe and seek understanding of human potential, for good as well as ill. Elder Thun expanded his gaseous form slightly, the equivalent of a nod. Then it is decided. Observer Krell will lead a team including Ambassador Xylith, Commander Vex, and specialists selected by Dr. Orloff. You will infiltrate human society, observe their behavior in natural settings, and report your findings to this council. Based on those findings, we will determine whether humanity represents a threat requiring containment, or a potential new member of our galactic community. Krell's featureless face revealed nothing of his thoughts. And if we determine they are a threat? Then, Elder Thun said gravely, we implement Protocol Omega. A hushed silence fell over the chamber. Protocol Omega had been enacted only twice in the Council's 10,000-year history, both times resulting in the complete quarantine of an aggressive species within their home system, prevented technologically from ever expanding beyond. Dr. Orloff's hologram flickered as he processed this information. I must emphasize, Elder, that my research indicates humans would detect and likely resist such containment efforts. Their paranoia about extraterrestrial life is well documented in their entertainment media. All the more reason to proceed with caution, Elder Thun replied. This observation mission must remain undetected. You will be provided with advanced camouflage technology and genetic modifications to appear human. Commander Vex made a sound of disgust. To wear the skin of predators. To understand them, Xylith corrected, her glow pulsing gently. Perhaps to find common ground. Krell remained motionless in the shadows. To judge them, he said simply. 3 cycles later, in the secure preparation chamber of the Council's scientific wing, Dr. Orloff supervised the final modifications to the observation team. His assistant, a young cephalari named Mira, monitored the genetic sequencing equipment. The human genome is remarkably adaptable, Mira noted, her tentacles dancing over the controls. These temporary modifications should integrate seamlessly with the team members' base genetic structures. Observer Krell stood stoically as the transformation chamber enveloped him in a swirl of nanomachines. His gray, featureless face gradually took on human characteristics, a defined nose, mouth, ears, and eyes with startling blue irises. His height reduced slightly, and his proportions shifted to match human norms. How unpleasant, Krell remarked, examining his new hands with 5 digits instead of his natural 3. Across the laboratory, Ambassador Xylitha's energy form was being contained within a biological shell that resembled a human female with copper-colored hair and warm brown eyes. She seemed fascinated by her new form, moving her fingers experimentally and touching her face with wonder. Such limited sensory apparatus, she murmured. How do they perceive the world through these crude organs? Commander Vex had the most difficult transformation. His reptilian physiology resisted the modifications, requiring additional treatments. Eventually, he emerged as a tall, broad-shouldered human male with dark skin and a permanent scowl. This body is weak, he growled, flexing his new muscles. How do humans defend themselves without natural armor? They build artificial armor, Dr. Orloff explained. And they develop weapons to compensate for their physical limitations. Never underestimate their ingenuity, Commander. The final member of the team arrived, a Quantin named Dr. Elora Val, the galaxy's leading expert on emerging intelligences. As a silicon-based life form, her transformation into a human shape was particularly dramatic. She emerged from the chamber as a small-statured human with short black hair and delicate features. Fascinating, she said, her voice now producing sound waves instead of her natural quantum vibrations. I can feel the limitations of this form, yet also its possibilities. Humans evolved within such constraints, yet developed space travel. Remarkable. Dr. Orloff gathered the transformed team members. You have each been programmed with human languages, customs, and sufficient background knowledge to integrate into their society. Observer Krell will pose as a sociologist named Carl Ross. Ambassador Xylith will be Dr. Zoe Lightman, a psychologist. Commander Vex will be Vincent Drake, a security consultant. And Dr. Val will be Dr. Ellie Vernon, a research scientist. Krell, now Carl, nodded. Our extraction point. You will have a stealth vessel disguised as a human recreational vehicle. It contains communication equipment to send reports to the Council and emergency extraction capabilities if needed. Xylith, now Zoe, smiled, practicing the human expression. Where will we begin our observations? Dr. Orloff projected a holographic globe of Earth. You will start in a region called Pacific Northwest, in the nation-state of United States. This area provides access to military installations, technological centers, diverse human cultures, and natural environments. From there, you can expand your observation range as needed. Commander Vex, now Vincent, frowned. Weapons? Minimal, Dr. Orloff replied firmly. This is an observation mission. You will carry only defensive technology and emergency extraction devices. And our primary objective? Dr. Val, now Ellie, asked. To answer a single question, Dr. Orloff said solemnly. Are humans predators to be contained, or potential allies to be welcomed? The fate of their species, and potentially our own, depends on your assessment. The 4 disguised aliens looked at one another, each contemplating the gravity of their mission. They would be the first official contact with humanity, though humans themselves would not know it. Their observations, their reports, their judgments would determine whether humans would be welcomed into the galactic community or forever quarantined as too dangerous to join the cosmic civilization. The transport is ready, Mira announced. Observer Krell straightened his human shoulders and addressed his team. Remember, we observe. We do not interfere. We do not form emotional attachments. We evaluate objectively. As they moved toward the transport vessel, Xylatha's human form fell into step beside Krell. And if we discover that humans are neither simply predators nor simply benevolent beings? What if they are truly the paradox Dr. Orloff describes? Krell's new human face remained expressionless. Then, Ambassador, we face a decision more complex than any the Council has encountered in a millennium. Because a paradoxical species may be the most dangerous kind of all. The observers. The recreational vehicle bumped along the winding coastal highway, its exterior indistinguishable from the many tourist vehicles traversing the Pacific Northwest. Inside, however, was a different story. What appeared to be simple camping equipment housed sophisticated monitoring technology, and the 4 tourists were anything but human. Carl Ross, formerly Observer Krell of the Watchers, sat rigidly in the driver's seat, his hands positioned at exactly 10 and 2 o'clock on the steering wheel as the human driving manual had instructed. He found the primitive combustion vehicle inefficient and dangerously unpredictable, but it served their cover perfectly. Remind me why we couldn't simply observe from orbit? Vincent Drake grumbled from the passenger seat, his human form still feeling confining to his Drakari consciousness. These bodies require constant maintenance, food, water, waste elimination. It's disgusting. Proximity yields insight that distance cannot, Carl replied flatly. The Council requires close observation. From the small table area behind them, Zoe Lightman looked up from the tablet device she was studying. Despite the limitations of her current form, something of the Luminar's natural glow seemed to emanate from her human eyes. These news feeds are fascinating, she said. Humans report simultaneously on acts of remarkable generosity and horrific violence, often in consecutive segments, with the same emotional tone. It's as if they cannot decide which aspects of their nature to embrace. Ellie Vernon, the transformed quantum scientist, joined Zoe at the table. Her small human form belied the thousands of years of scientific knowledge contained within her consciousness. I've been analyzing their entertainment media, she noted. It's revealing that humans create fictional narratives in which they are both the galaxy's greatest heroes and its most terrifying villains. They seem compelled to explore all potential expressions of their nature through storytelling. Vincent snorted. Predators always imagine themselves as heroes in their own narrative. It justifies their consumption of other species. Or perhaps, Zoe countered, it represents an aspirational quality, a desire to transcend their biological imperatives. Carl's eyes remained fixed on the road. We will base our conclusions on observable data, not speculation. We begin formal observation tomorrow. Each of you has your assignment. The coastal town of Harbor Point appeared postcard perfect as morning sunlight glinted off the Pacific Ocean. At 57,000 residents, it represented an ideal observation site, large enough to contain diverse human activities but small enough to track patterns effectively. Zoe Lightman adjusted her glasses, unnecessary for vision but excellent for concealing recording devices, as she entered the Harbor Point Community Center. Her cover as a visiting psychologist conducting research on community dynamics had been accepted without question. Humans, she was discovering, were remarkably trusting of credentials. Dr. Lightman. Welcome. A short, energetic woman with curly gray hair approached with hand extended. I'm Donna Winters, the center director. We're so excited about your community well-being study. Anything that might help us improve services is valuable. Zoe carefully matched the woman's smile and handshake pressure, drawing on her extensive diplomatic training. Thank you for accommodating my research. I'm looking forward to observing your community programs. Of course. Today's perfect. We have the senior wellness class, the youth mentoring program, and the community assistance network all meeting. You'll get to see how we support residents across all life stages. As Donna led her through the building, Zoe was struck by the facility's simplicity yet evident importance to the humans who gathered there. Elderly humans moved slowly through gentle exercises in one room, their fragile bodies defying the apex predator stereotype. In another space, adults helped younger humans with educational materials. The atmosphere was cooperative, nurturing. Our biggest challenge is funding, of course, Donna explained. The youth program was almost cut last year until local businesses rallied to save it. Why would they do that? Zoe asked, genuinely curious. What evolutionary advantage does supporting unrelated offspring provide? Donna gave her an odd look. Well, that's a clinical way of putting it. But I suppose they recognize that healthy, educated kids make for a better community for everyone. Plus, it's just the right thing to do, isn't it? Zoe nodded, making mental notes. Community cohesion as a survival strategy. Altruism beyond genetic relation. Concepts to explore further. Across town, Vincent Drake's human form was tensed as he toured the Harbor Point Police Department. His cover as a security consultant reviewing their protocols had gained him access to their weapons, procedures, and facilities. And this is our armory, Officer Rodriguez explained, using his keycard to open a secured door. Nothing too exciting, standard-issue sidearms, a few shotguns for emergencies, riot gear that's been gathering dust since the 90s. Vincent surveyed the weapons with professional interest. Primitive projectile technology, chemical propellants, limited range and destructive capability. Nothing like the molecular disruptors the Drakari military employed. Your defensive capabilities seem limited, he observed. Rodriguez laughed. For Harbor Point. This is plenty. We haven't had a shooting incident in 3 years, and that was an accident during hunting season. Most of our work is community policing, noise complaints, occasional domestic disputes, drunk tourists during festival weekends. Vincent frowned. But how do you maintain dominance without show of force? The officer gave him a strange look. It's not about dominance, Mr. Drake. It's about service. We're here to help people, not control them. Before Vincent could process this surprising statement, the radio on Rodriguez's belt crackled to life. All available units, disturbance at Harbor High School, possible weapon involved. Rodriguez's demeanor changed instantly. Sorry, Mr. Drake. Duty calls. He closed the armory and moved with purpose toward the exit. You're welcome to observe from my patrol car if you want real-world context for your security assessment. Vincent nodded, intrigued by the opportunity to observe humans in crisis. Within minutes, they were speeding toward the high school, lights flashing but siren silent, a tactical approach, Rodriguez explained. 3 other police vehicles had already formed a perimeter around the school when they arrived. Students were being evacuated in orderly lines, some crying, others on communication devices, presumably contacting their family units. What's the situation? Rodriguez asked the officer in charge, a tall woman with short gray hair and a commanding presence. One student reported seeing another with what might be a gun in his backpack. Kid in question is Marcus Holland, 16, known behavioral issues, currently barricaded in the boys' locker room. No confirmation of an actual weapon yet. Vincent observed the efficiency of the human response. Within minutes, a crisis negotiator had arrived, communications were established with the barricaded student, and a methodical search of the evacuated areas had begun. These humans operate with surprising coordination, Vincent noted internally. Their response protocols are actually quite sophisticated for their technological level. After 42 minutes of negotiation, the student emerged from the locker room, hands raised, face streaked with tears. No weapon was found, only a replica toy gun he'd brought to scare another student who had been bullying him. What happened next confounded Vincent's expectations. Rather than subduing the threat with force, the officers secured the replica, conducted a brief medical evaluation, and transferred the distressed adolescent to mental health professionals. The entire incident was resolved without a single injury. "I anticipated more aggressive tactics," Vincent remarked as they drove back to the station. Rodriguez glanced at him. 10 years ago, maybe that would have happened. But we've learned better approaches. That kid needs help, not punishment." Vincent made note of this unexpected complexity in human law enforcement methodology. The predator's instinct for dominance was present, yet tempered by something else, something that required further study. In a coffee shop near the harbor, Ellie Vernon sat with a local environmental scientist named Dr. Marcus Chen, her tablet recording their conversation for later analysis. "The harbor seal population has actually increased by 15% since the new fishing regulations," Dr. Chen was explaining, his enthusiasm evident as he scrolled through photographs of marine mammals. "It's one of the few success stories we can point to. Yet humans continue to fish from these waters," Ellie noted. "Taking the seal's natural prey. Within sustainable limits now," Chen emphasized. "That's the key difference. We've learned, sometimes the hard way, that we have to balance our needs with the health of the ecosystem." Ellie tilted her head slightly. The concept seems contradictory. Humans recognize their impact on other species, yet continue activities that negatively affect them, just at a reduced rate. Chen laughed. "Well, when you put it that way, it does sound inconsistent. But that's the challenge, isn't it? We can't just stop being human. We need resources to survive. The goal is finding that balance point where we get what we need without destroying what sustains us." He sipped his coffee. "Though I admit, we're better at recognizing the problem than solving it." "An evolutionary conundrum," Ellie mused. "Conscious awareness of one's predatory impact without the biological capacity to fully transcend it. That's an interesting way to frame environmental ethics," Chen said, giving her a curious look. "Are you coming at this from a philosophical angle?" "I approach all questions from multiple analytical frameworks," Ellie replied carefully. "It helps to see patterns more clearly." As their conversation continued, Ellie documented Dr. Chen's passionate concern for non-human species alongside his admission of humanity's continued environmental exploitation. Another data point in the paradox. Carl Ross stood silently at the edge of Harbor Point Cemetery, observing a human funeral ritual from a respectful distance. His cover as a sociologist studying grief customs provided perfect justification for his presence. A family was gathered around a grave site, an elderly woman, presumably the deceased spouse, supported by adults of various ages and several small children. The ritualized speaking, the flowers placed on the casket, the communal expression of emotion, all were behaviors Carl was documenting meticulously. What he hadn't expected was the physical response in his temporary human form. Something about the elderly woman's quiet dignity, the protective way the younger humans surrounded her, created an unfamiliar sensation in his chest. He made note of this physiological anomaly, the human endocrine system affecting his consciousness despite his awareness of its artificial nature. After the ceremony concluded, Carl approached the funeral director, a middle-aged human named Desmond Hall. "Thank you for allowing me to observe," Carl said, practicing the appropriate somber tone. "Of course, Dr. Ross. As I mentioned, the family was comfortable with it, given your research focus. Richard was well loved in this community, taught high school science for 40 years. The community's response seems elaborate for the loss of a single individual," Carl observed. Hall's expression registered surprise, then understanding. "Ah, you must study very different cultures. Here, every life is considered valuable. Richard shaped hundreds of young minds over his career. His influence will continue through them. A form of legacy propagation," Carl noted. Ensuring one's impact extends beyond biological termination. That's one way to put it, Hall replied. Though most would simply say he made a difference. That's what we all hope for, isn't it? To matter to someone else. Carl didn't respond immediately, processing this statement against his observations of the mourners. Humans invested significant emotional resources in individuals with no direct survival benefit to themselves. The evolutionary purpose was unclear, yet the behavior was widespread. Tell me, Carl asked, if Richard had been friendless, would the ceremony have been different? Hall's expression softened with something Carl identified as pity. We would still have honored his life, Dr. Ross. Every human deserves dignity in death. But yes, it would have been different. Quieter. Sadder, really. Connection is what gives meaning to our lives. Carl made careful note of this. Connection as meaning. Individual value regardless of utility. Concepts that require deeper investigation. That evening, the four observers gathered in their RV, parked on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Each uploaded their day's observations to the Central Analysis Matrix, a quantum computer disguised as an ordinary laptop. Initial findings suggest significant deviation from predicted predatory patterns, Ellie began, calling up holographic data points that shimmered in the air between them. Human resource allocation includes substantial investment in non-productive members of their society, the elderly, the ill, the very young. Yet they maintain military structures, Vincent countered. Their global information network contains countless depictions of violence. Their history is dominated by warfare. But also by cooperation, Zoe added. The community center I observed demonstrated complex social support systems with no direct survival benefit to the participants. Volunteers gave time and resources to help unrelated individuals. Carl remained silent, processing the conflicting data. Finally, he spoke. We must expand our observation parameters. One small community may not represent the species accurately. The global information network provides ample evidence of human contradiction, Ellie noted. For every cooperative endeavor, there is exploitation. For every act of altruism, there is cruelty. The paradox appears consistent across human cultures. Vincent leaned forward. Which means they remain unpredictable. Dangerous. A species that cannot resolve its own internal contradictions cannot be trusted. Or, Zoe countered, it indicates a species in evolutionary transition, one becoming aware of its baser instincts and actively working to transcend them. Speculation, Carl stated flatly. We will continue objective observation without drawing premature conclusions. As the others prepared for their rest cycle, Carl stepped outside the vehicle, gazing at the stars barely visible through Earth's light pollution. His report to the council would be factual, devoid of the strange sensations he'd experienced while observing the funeral. Yet something troubled him, a growing awareness that objective observation of humans might be impossible. Their contradictory nature seemed designed to elicit response, to draw observers into their emotional orbit. A dangerous quality in a potentially hostile species. Over the following weeks, the observation team expanded their research beyond Harbor Point. Ellie attended scientific conferences in major urban centers. Vincent observed military installations and weapons manufacturing facilities. Zoe interviewed humans across diverse socio-economic circumstances. Carl compiled their findings, searching for patterns that would resolve the paradox. Their genetic modifications required periodic adjustment as human biochemistry influenced their consciousness in unexpected ways. Vincent found himself experiencing aggression triggers more intensely. Zoe developed attachments to certain human subjects. Ellie became fascinated by human scientific curiosity. Even Carl, despite his watcher discipline, noticed changes in his thought patterns. During a research excursion to Washington, D.C., Ellie visited the National Air and Space Museum, documenting humanity's rapid progress from primitive atmospheric flight to rudimentary space exploration. As she studied the exhibits, a small human child approached her. "Do you like rockets too?" the girl asked, perhaps 6 years old, her face alight with enthusiasm. Ellie blinked, unprepared for direct interaction with a juvenile human. "Yes," she replied cautiously. "The physics of propulsion is fascinating. I'm gonna build better ones when I grow up," the child declared with absolute certainty. "Ones that can go super far, like to other stars." Before Ellie could respond, the child's parental unit, a harried-looking woman, appeared. "Emma, don't bother the lady," she scolded gently, then smiled apologetically at Ellie. "Sorry about that. She's rocket-obsessed since the Mars landing." "No disturbance," Ellie assured her. "Her ambition is interesting." After they moved on, Ellie found herself contemplating the interaction. The child demonstrated no awareness of resource limitations, technological impossibilities, or the dangers of interstellar travel. Just pure, unbridled determination to explore. It was simultaneously irrational and admirable. That evening, in her secure communication to the council, Ellie included a notation: "Human offspring demonstrate imagination unconstrained by physical limitations, a possible evolutionary advantage driving their technological advancement despite resource scarcity." In Seattle, Vincent had gained access to a technology corporation developing artificial intelligence systems. His cover as a security consultant allowed him to observe humans creating entities designed to eventually exceed their own cognitive capabilities. "You're literally developing your own replacement species," Vincent remarked to Dr. Naomi Takahashi, the project leader, as they toured the quantum computing facility. Dr. Takahashi laughed. "That's a bit dramatic. We're developing tools, not replacements. AI that can help solve problems beyond human computational capacity, climate modeling, disease patterns, resource optimization." But if these systems surpass human intelligence, wouldn't they represent a threat? "That's why ethical constraints are built into every system," she explained. "The goal isn't to create a competing intelligence but a complementary one. Different cognitive architecture provides different perspectives." Vincent frowned. "You speak of these machines almost as potential allies." "In a sense, they are," Takahashi agreed. "The biggest challenges facing humanity can't be solved by humans alone. We have cognitive biases, processing limitations. AI doesn't replace human judgment, it extends our capabilities." Later, Vincent included in his report, "Humans deliberately creating more advanced intelligence forms, despite obvious security risks. Pattern consistent with predatory species overconfidence, but methodology suggests awareness of limitations and attempt to transcend them." In Chicago, Zoe had arranged interviews with both perpetrators and victims of human violence, seeking to understand the duality of their nature. In a secure prison facility, she sat across from Dominic Falcone, convicted of multiple violent crimes.